welcome. As we're waiting for more people to come to this conversation, I can give a little bit introduction about myself and Mask Network. My name is Afra. I'm leading the marketing and the growth with Mask Network. Mask Network is actually a very comprehensive foundation-like company that does a lot of investment on decentralized social infrastructure. We build decentralized identity protocol, NextID. We build a Lens and a Farcaster client called Firefly. So Mask Network is basically this comprehensive organization that's trying to advance the frontier of decentralized social. So how many of you here care about decentralized social? Raise your hand if you care about decentralized social. Yes, yes. Anyone who has their hand raised should feel supported by Mask Network and should feel supported and connected to us. Without further ado, today we have a amazing lineup of many guests talking about a variety of issues. But just for me, being in Mask for the past 2 years is really me witnessing this entire social landscape changing. From the nascent blue sky coming to everyone's eyesight, to the acquisition of Twitter, now become X.com, to the recently really crazy Farcaster wave with the invention of frames. I think we will have a lot of interesting topics to cover, not only from this very academic aspect, but also the newest, what's going on in the market. So the first panel, we will have Mask Network's founder, Suji, and a very long-term Mask's friend, Nathan Schneider, to have a fireside talk. And Nancy will be the moderator for this talk. So I will welcome the three amazing people to come on the stage and talk about things we care about. All right, Nancy, I will hand over the mic to you.
Hello, everyone. How are you? My name is Nancy Wu. I'm the Mask Academy Curator, which is a nonprofit entity of Mask Network. We donate and fund top universities and institutions of their initiatives and programs of Web3 research and storytelling. I think I have the most exciting job to change the Web3 world. Thanks to one person, Suji Yan, is now sitting next to me. So Suji is the founder of Mask Network. When he was about 9 years ago, when he was 19 years old, he was still coding in some basement in UIUC in Illinois. And he had a very clear vision how to change the world, just like the cypherpunks. So he dropped out from the school and started something later become Mask Network. Suji can now do it alone because he had help from many like-minded friends. So one of them is Nathan Schneider, who is an activist, journalist, and currently teaching at University of Colorado Boulder. Actually, Nathan recently just published a book, which is very exciting. So the two first met in 2019 in China, and they met on this platform co-op and started to cook up the ideas lead to today's decentralized revolution. So I'm gonna give the mic to Nathan to start the conversation with Suji. Let's hear about the conversation from the two amigos.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nan. And it's just such a pleasure to be here. Welcome to all of you who are not from Colorado. I feel very lucky to be in the state here where we get to host this event every year. And also, keep an eye out for the values embedded in this. For instance, the DAO, Spork DAO that runs ETHDenver is organized as a cooperative business, and that's a way of doing things that's really deep. It's really close to my heart and fits into these values of decentralization. You know, in the last 5 or so years since we first met in 2019, so much has changed, right? I mean, at that time, decentralized social was more of a dream than a reality. It was something that a lot of us were doing around the edges, playing around with experimental apps and protocols. Today, you know, we're more than a year into the Musk apocalypse, and we have a real chance to do what, you know, to build what I call in you know, the book that Nan just mentioned. The title of the book is Governable Spaces, and we're really at a moment where we have a chance to build social networks that are truly governable spaces, which means spaces that that the participants can shape, can truly own and govern on their own terms. So Suji's been such a leader in developing this this movement. I've used for years apps that he's participated in building, and so I'm just so curious to hear his perspective today. I want to start out with a question about you know, where you see the kind of state of the art right now. What is the state of decentralized social? How far are we along? What still needs to be done? You know, can you lay a bit of a you know, broad strokes picture of where decentralized social is right now?
I think when Mask and my friends started the idea in 2016, 2017, there's only the GNU social and Mastodon was around you know, around this small area, and it's purely non-profit. The first major wave was actually initiated by that time the Twitter company. When Jack was still the CEO, he wanted to do something different. So he initiated the Blue Sky, which I think on the balance sheet, Blue Sky now spin out, but on the balance sheet they have a 15 million grant from Twitter, which is the IPO company.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's so striking that he came to the conclusion after running Twitter that this should not be a company. This should be a protocol.
Yes. And that's a kind of like a changing, a huge change even for us, because like I remember, because we're almost self-funding ourselves, like we are selling our Bitcoin holdings, and it's quite painful experience. A lot of like my friends, they believe me, but they kind of lose faith in this sector, and I think Jack is like donating and shouting did make a difference. We actually become quite financially, I guess, say successful, thanks to him, but it didn't solve the problem, right? And that time, Blue Sky was not really a company that just like putting all the together. So I remember there's a Blue Sky ecosystem page created by the founder of GunDB, and we were on that page, and also Matt Stone. Also, other folks, and it's not really say we're gonna create a new AT protocol. It's just a random group. They said we'll create something, and we're gonna figure out. We're gonna talk to everybody who's trying this. And more funny, it's not a Twitter group. It's a group on Discord. I remember clearly. I don't know why they choose Discord, but it's like it's a group on Discord. That's the first wave, and the second wave is like the Twitter acquisition. It's almost 1 year, like it's almost 2 years, I'd say. I think, you know, I don't like the current version of Twitter under Elon, but I won't say the old version is perfect. And honestly, I say it could be worse. It could be worse. Like I always think like every one of us in this community, no matter what open source or whatever, we kind of like have some responsibility to the failure of this like Twitter at current stage. Because I remember clearly back in the times around the 2017 Bitcoin bull run to the 2021 bull run, that's around like 4 years, right? Within that 4 years, Jack tried many things inside Twitter, including Blue Sky, including many things. We have like a lot of deals signed with them, a lot of like MOUs. it doesn't matter anymore right now. But I feel there's strong tension inside. That's because of the shareholder structure, the attitude management. You know, the famous hedge fund PE.
Yeah.
They are the activism investor. They have a huge stake, and they don't like Jack's approach. They're worse than Elon. Honestly, I do think Elon at least cares some of the social networks, free speech per his understanding, but attitude management, that guy doesn't really care, right? He want to turn Twitter into a printing machine to print money.
Yeah.
So I think it can be worse. So we're not really in the best situation right now, but definitely we are not in the worst situation, because these guys can definitely make Twitter a private company and do other shitty stuff. So I just lucky that it's Elon turn it into a private company, but it's also a bad thing that it's him. That's the controversial side, and I can't imagine a better individual to take that from the stock market. But also I can imagine there's way better management can run the current Twitter. So that's a controversial thing, right? I think every one of us responsible. When we see that small window for 3-4 years there, we didn't do much, and we can't do much as a small company that time. I think there's many huge funds out there. They're just waving billions of dollar check, and they just like SoftBank, Andreessen, what they're doing.
Well, I gave them a chance, because in 2017, a group of us ran a shareholder proposal at Twitter saying, this is a risk, you're vulnerable to capture, you should do distributed ownership among your users, so we gave them a chance.
What happened? You received a letter from SEC, right?
Well, they tried to stop us at the SEC, but the SEC actually ruled in our favor, and
is that
allowed
Gary in the office?
Yeah, okay. but it allowed the proposal to go forward, and we got about 4% of the vote or something like that. And then after that, we ended up creating social.coop, which is a co-op that runs a Mastodon server.
Yeah.
Right. And so, we had to do that, what we call in like social movement talk, like dual power, confronting the authority, but also, building an alternative. But the point about Elon, I think there's a shift too, in that at least, in the earlier regime, what we media scholars used to criticize was there was at least this claim that we're building a neutral platform, right? Mm-hmm. Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg and all these kinds of figures were like, okay, we're going to at least pretend we're building a neutral platform. The way Elon Musk runs this show is like, I don't like it when people say cisgender or something, so I'm going to ban everybody. It's like his show, right? There's no longer this claim that it's an open platform. It's become a fiefdom. A core concept in this book I just wrote is implicit feudalism. The feudalism has gotten a lot more explicit now.
He revealed the truth.
Yeah, he revealed the truth.
It's always like that.
And you're right. It's not like it was glory days before. Right?
Yeah, and that's the first stage, and from that time, like, it's really weird because I was a journalist. Like you're also a journalist, right? We were in the cycles of people reporting acquisitions, and just when Elon came in, suddenly every huge PE VC just like begged him to take the money to take Twitter out of the stock market. But back in the days, they don't really have balls to acquire enough stake. Here's a very interesting story. I'm open to say that right now. Like almost 1 or 2 years before the Elon thing happened, I was on a yacht with CZ, the Binance head, right? I was telling him, that the Twitter stock, Twitter market cap is actually smaller than your Binance coin. That time I remember clearly, it's 260 or 250, 25 billion. And he didn't believe that. He actually took out his phone. We are on his yacht, like luxury yacht, and we're just having some fun. He just searched Google, Twitter market cap, and then he just searched. He know the Binance coin market cap. He's like, oh, that's a really interesting deal. I think he did buy some personally, but everyone just don't think Twitter gonna make money, so just like they stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our industry, the crypto industry, in the bull market, you have a lot of cash. Just wasted on the other, like, same layer 3, layer 2, again and again. And no one dare to touch I'd say the holy thing of the internet, that is the social network.
Yeah.
Now they start to realize it's important. So yeah, that's my opinion. I think we just review the true identity of Twitter and the true situation of the social platform or any internet platform running centralizedly.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do a little bit of a poll here. Just to map out the kind of ecosystem that we're talking about here. Who here is on, for instance, Farcaster? Okay, fair amount of hands. That would not be the case at anywhere other than a crypto conference, but okay. Noster. You Nosters, okay. Mastodon. Even fewer. Blue Sky. All right. Some people who weren't on others. Crypto Twitter. Everybody. All right. So right now we're in a situation where I'm in a situation, I don't know about you all, but where I have so many of these apps that, like, if I want to post anything to people that might be interested in something, I want to share, I feel like I'm going to 500 different apps. One thing you've been interested in is building apps that integrate these pieces together. One of the dangers of decentralization, one of the things that can go awry is it just becomes unwieldy. How do you see this ecosystem of all these different emerging networks and protocols coalescing into something that is manageable in the way that, I don't want to call email manageable, but at least I can still use it all in one client?
Yeah. So like even Google and Microsoft was fighting like hell back in the days. You can email each other, like Hotmail can email Gmail, no problem. But right now, the funny part is like, I think Mass Team is probably the one of the only, I think maybe the only one talking to every other social protocol. Like, like Nostr people are so Bitcoin. So if we propose to add stablecoin payment, not through 99 words, it's just gonna mad instantly. No idea why. And like the same thing apply for Blue Sky v Mastodon, which is running on ActivityPub. Like we all agree, ActivityPub is really old protocol, but there's no reason not to be compatible, right? And the same thing apply for like Lens and Farcaster. They're all, I think, EVM based. You use Ethereum, key pairs, EVM and ENS. No one is doing the bridge, and that's one thing. Another thing is like people who have money have no intention to donate to nonprofit that don't really have money. We become the largest donor for Mastodon. That's weird, because the second largest donor is Samsung, and when we finish donation, we're like, oh, it's not really a big check, 100K, and per year maybe 200K, 300K. Maybe we're some top donor, but then it's the review of the identity. The review from the CFO is from Mastodon is like we're the largest single donor.
Wow.
And I know lots of the social platform, they raise tons of money.
Yeah.
Right. And again, these people don't donate to Bitcoin people. The Nostr problem, right? So again, I think the problem is not really we don't have enough good design in social networks. There's beautiful things to learn from each protocols, right? Some of them have special feature on moderation, which is very important because you don't want to let like neo-Nazi take out the platform. You don't, like you can give them the freedom to write on blockchain, but have the freedom to moderation is another very important thing. So a lot of design don't really have it. Another platform, several other protocols, they never think about the GDPR, which they have the right to forget, right to erase your data. And once your blockchain, you cannot really erase. Maybe you should erase your key. So that's a completely new design. People just don't think about it. And I was in DC for 2 years. For last 2 years, and one of the reasons I try to talk to the people who are in the office, right? And I was trying to talk to them like, what's going on with TikTok? Do you really think that's a Chinese spy thing? I didn't get an answer, but I'm open to do the conversations, right? I think once the decentralized social really take off, have like 10 million of users, that's going to be a huge problem. How can you let the government, like the three-letter agencies, not try to censor, not try to control everything? You have to have a way to negotiate with them.
Yeah.
I think we are also the only one really actually spending money in DC, like helping and not me. Like I'm not American. Like let the American activism groups to do something. Donate to J School, right? Because early Twitter is not because of the investors, right? Definitely investors play a huge role, like Silicon Valley, cool people, VC, Jack's friend, all these VCs, they play a huge role in the early Twitter. But the early Twitter is also like South by people, musicians, right? Cool celebrities and journalists. And J School need donations, no one doing that. So I just feel like a little bit sad. I think people are still fighting each other in this small decentralized social community. I don't see any points of doing that. Right? I mean, yeah, we can do business. Like if we do business, we do investment. We're investor of Lens. We're investor of the Orb, which is a Lens app. We acquire a lot of like apps, such as the Twitter OX, which is the Twitter plus Mastodon app. When we do that, we talk about business, like, oh, the valuation makes sense or not, the price is good or not. But even the deal didn't went through. We still want to help. I didn't see much of that happening right now. So that's why I think we're just calling everyone and say, hey, we need to have a neutral common standpoint that just help every decentralized social network, no matter with crypto, with blockchain, or with whatever blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, you can do whatever chain you want. Yeah. To help it to win.
Well, the point you're making, it's so important that you bring up investment structures here because, I remember early on when I started doing that Twitter campaign, one of the early engineers at Twitter came up to me at an event and said, we were ready to go in the V1 of the Twitter software to federate. We were building it out, and then it was a business decision, mainly to please the venture capital investors, that made them shut it down. So it wasn't a technological problem. Over and over we see this in the in the history of technology that okay, you can have decentralized technology out there, like even the web itself, but it can get captured by investment models, and that's the story of Twitter. I mean, it initially was ready to serve as a protocol, as an open protocol, but it was the investment model that got in the way. So I think right now we have to be really attentive to that. And one thing that I think is important about Mastodon's approach, and thank you for being a supporter of that, is that they really have taken a principled stand against venture capital. And some people see that and say, why are you bothering with that? You need your rocket fuel, like all the other apps are taking, Firecaster and Blue Sky and all these things. But I think they're right to see investment as a critical leverage point. But I do want to ask you, I appreciate the kind of neutral stance you're taking here, but I'm curious, as we're talking about decentralized social, decentralization is a word that gets slapped onto all kinds of things without a lot of specificity. What do you think is important to decentralize, right? I mean, all these different systems decentralize in very different ways, right? Some do it on a blockchain, something like for Mastodon, there's no blockchains, it's just different servers talking to each other. What is most important to decentralize to be able to call something decentralized social?
I think eventually we're gonna see a word that if I'm a creator on some social network, probably even OnlyFans, like if I'm a creator on something, I want to create a line, I want to like a loan to buy a house. I'm just gonna collateralize my account to an AI and say, hey, okay, I have a lot of fans. If I sell some like NFT or some goods and even videos, I can make such much money. And that AI knows that, gonna give you a credit line, and people are gonna thrive in the cyberspace, right? Just like we have payrolls, we own our properties in the real world, and we have free of speech here. And currently, we don't have that anymore in the cyberspace. And I think we probably never have that in the cyberspace. Just besides this few the few early OG probably remember the early 90s. But besides that, there was never an independent cyberspace, right? I think in order to achieve that, you need a decentralized public forum to talk to each other, right? And you may have different level of like public forum. Like maybe some of the bars just serve whiskey. It's fine. You can just go to other bars. The key is to have not lock-in functionalities, right? Yeah. Currently, all these approach, they all try to do some lock-ins, right? Even Mastodon, they try to do some lock-ins. I think it's more.
I'm locked into the community I'm part of.
Yes.
In important ways. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's important about the attitude, whether they welcome someone to break in and grab you. Say, hey, we break in this bar and our friends there, we just grab them and we just go to another bar. I'd say a lot of venture-backed protocol, they won't welcome this. The simple reason is, how can you return money to the investors? Right, and this is a super difficult curve. I think it's need a lot of like approach that really we haven't think of yet. Yeah. And I have to admit, like back in the days of Mass Network, we did took a lot of money from the investors, and we're lucky that back in the days we were in the bull market, and we got support from all the OGs. Like thanks to Vitaly Sholin for the Red Pocket, and a lot of people love our Lunar New Year campaign. It took off financially. So every investor super happy, and they walk away with the token money, and they just leave us alone. They just say, hey, do whatever you want. That gives us a strong advantage that we're not responsible for any venture capital that invested or trading. We just try to achieve our goal and the goal of the industry, which means we can do things from acquisition, investment, pure nonprofit donation, funding to funding to college, funding to NGO. We can do all these, and I think that's the key to keep yourself open-minded. And when someone breaking your bar, say, hey, let's don't drink Japanese sake, let's just turn into other things. You have to open and say, hey, okay, whatever you want to drink, and you can even take my customer away. It's fine. The door's gonna open any times. I didn't see any of that right now, and yeah, that's important. And if we don't have this, I think we're kind of like seeing a short window, like 3-4 year, maybe 5 year time from this bull cycle to the next one, 2020, 2030, 2029. If we didn't really work together, I think that just that beautiful time we're gonna just fly away, just like the Twitter thing we wasted.
Yeah,
we really wasted that time.
Now, I mean, I think one thing that's very powerful about the last few months was the huge rise, the huge spike that Farcaster experienced with the release of Frames, and I got really excited about it. I keep trying to convince my students this is really cool, because it's not just another clone of a social network, and there are, for instance, ways in which Blue Sky and Mastodon are different from Twitter, say, but often they're kind of subtle and under the hood. They don't really hit you while you're scrolling, doom scrolling late at night or something. Frames is like a different kind of basic tool in social media. It's a different idea, and it's enabled by the fact that this whole thing is connected to the blockchain as a social graph. And so I'm curious if you see other kinds of opportunities like that where decentralized social becomes not just, eat your vegetables and get off of big social. It becomes not just another clone of existing products that were first introduced over a decade ago, but actually enables us to do things that we couldn't do before because we were caught up in big social. How does the move toward decentralization actually open the door to different kinds of experiences?
Yeah, I say Twitter have every chance to do that. I mean, when I pretend I don't know Farcaster team or the frame like design. I just pretend I don't know anything. Like I'm gonna ask a random guy, developer, right? Say, hey, what is the frame thing on Forecaster? Can you explain that to me? He say, oh, like you're from Asia. It's like the WeChat mini app. I'm like, okay, and
I'm
then
not
the
sure
next
it
thing,
is,
the next
but
thing you're gonna remember is like Elon's been showing on mini apps for years.
yeah.
And then thanks to him, they fire everyone. Now no one can deliver that in Twitter. But that thing is not a completely new thing. It's not really invented by decentralized. It's by the decentralized feature, right? I think it's more about like the mismanagement of Twitter. They cannot deliver that. There's people trying to do some open frame standard that make every decentralized social app can do that. It's cool. I think eventually we're gonna have dApps to be decentralized apps to be more mini apps and integrated into every app. It can be social app. I think mostly social app, and they're gonna be huge. Definitely not gonna be huge. But in order to do that, we need to keep it open, right? Okay, I interact with some friend, whatever, like mini app on Blue Sky or Lens or like whatever, and it should reflect back to the webcast, the Firecaster official client. I hope they're gonna allow it. I don't know whether they're gonna allow it, right? Like hey, we have a lot of things input from other social networks reflect on the Firecaster. If they are willing to do that, it's gonna be a huge difference. And then again, back to the history. Tim Berners-Lee, back in the days, the creator of World Wide Web, right? He tried to do some workshop and work group inside the W3C. It's called Mini App Web Standard.
Oh.
And that time, he able to invite all the giants in the group from Tencent, Alibaba, Facebook, Twitter, and it didn't took off because these guys keep fighting inside it, and the only one really care about this standard seems to be Microsoft because they don't really have anything in social network, right? So again, I hope this thing gonna be different. We have a lot of conversation with Vitalik. I think I'm the first one mentioned to him face to face. We should try out the Lens, Firecaster, Mastodon, all the things. He did try all three. I'm kind of worried right now that we gonna do the same mistake like 10 years ago when Tim bring every big social app. They're just fighting each other to death, and basically trick them, right? They trick the W3C. I kind of afraid that it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, if Vitalik and other friends of EF gonna lead this conversation, and say, hey, we're gonna do this small mini work group inside the EF. Our old friends, Bitcoin people, Maxi people, gonna just show up from somewhere else. Say, hey, we don't want you guys. It's so hard.
Well, that's the story of building standards. I mean, it is a hard challenge in all kinds of industries, and you can get people together and say, we'll have a conversation and build a standard and try to agree, but often it's the market that determines the standard. And then we saw this, for instance, with EV plugs over the last year, where the government in the U.S. asserted one standard, and then Tesla got the market share that imposed another one, and that kind of thing, I think, is what's playing out in certain respects. Like, we need to see what is able to capture mind share and capture people's attention, and that's going to be leading the standard.
One thing we're trying to do right now internally, and we're willing to share that to public, is like we try to make sure every dollar we invest through the profitable way, like the financial profitable way or venture way, every dollar we invest, every $10 we invest, we're gonna make like $1 or $2 donation. That is pure nonprofit. It's gonna just go to someone's pocket and they're gonna sink there, and they're gonna just use it. We try to do that internally, so we didn't really invest too much. We invest around like 40 million in past. Yeah. Halfly on the social network, and we made around 3-4 million donation per year. I think one day we're able to see one-on-one. If we're able to run this thing successfully, we're able to see one-on-one. $1 we spend on venture style investment, we can spend $1 on nonprofit, and that's going to be quite important. I would love to call every other social protocol with huge balance sheet and with huge investment support to do the same thing. You know, like 10 to 2, 10 to 1 is okay. I think they can do that. I'd love to see someone. I think you can, Professor Nathan, you can be the one running the joint DAO or like, you know, saying like, you know, call it open social whatever foundation, and we're happy to hand that to you, and you can just pick the young kids to support. That's the key. Otherwise, you know, like we were discussing the standard called Master, right? Mastodon and Nostr, they're funding. They're funding besides some open source community donation. Why? I don't know. I think we should fix that problem. Yeah. If you look into the Open SaaS Foundation, that's almost merely funded by Jack. And again, he's a man. He's not a god. He's not gonna able to fund this thing continually. He have to sell his stock sometimes, right? He's using the Square stock to funding this thing. It's not healthy. And we love to see this thing happen. I'm calling everyone care about the decentralized social to make this thing happen.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a really important recognition that in order for this stuff to work, it's going to have to involve public goods. You know, it's going to have to involve funding things that don't have an immediate return, but have a collective return as the ecosystem develops, and that we're moving, I hope, into a new phase where we recognize the public square, that social networks need to be a commons in some respect. They cannot any longer be a walled garden. I'm curious to, you mentioned like the mini apps in WeChat and things like that, and you've been involved also in with Japanese Mastodon instances, and I'm curious if there are lessons from experiences in Asia with social networks that, those mini apps, we've been trying to catch up to those for years here. Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk have been salivating over mini apps for years and can't seem to pull it off. What else do we need to learn from the global experience with social networks that those of us here in the US might not be paying attention to?
Yeah, so that's like, just think about like how many decentralized social apps or front end really support multiple language. Less than 5 maybe, and then we run 3 of them, right? And I think American is pleased to have all these, smart brains here and just able to communicate in just one language.
Yeah.
That's great. But by numbers, like Twitter, 1/3 of Twitter's users speak Japanese. I have no idea why, and a lot of people are like from China and Korea. They just use the VPN, randomly show up all over the world. That's around 40%, almost 40% of the Twitter user base. Facebook never released the detailed number, but if you count in the WhatsApp domination in India and Southeast Asia, I don't think it's probably even larger considering the activity there. Again, we try to do decentralized social apps, right? Decentralized social protocols. Protocols write in English and just do the ChatGPT translation, great. No one really do the apps in other language. Why? Let's take a look at the Mira, right? Mira XYZ is the block platform, use the decentralized storage and your wallet to log in. I don't know whether that team really look into the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that half of the content of Mira is not English, more than half. Our latest, because we run the whole Arweave nodes and IPFS nodes, we know the whole transaction on these storage layers. So by our calculation, around 55 to 60% of the social decentralized social blocks, Mira, etc., is not English. Again, there's no other language UI UX. If you don't think that way, if you don't immerse yourself into a decentralized physical way, you just it's very easy, just take a flight and just be in all the other places. Don't just follow the ETHDenver or East Paris, East Shanghai. At least just do some other travelings, right? And you just talk to the local people. You're gonna figure out why it's important, and you're gonna figure out why There's Line in Japan, Kakao in Korea, WeChat in China, WhatsApp in India, blah, blah, blah. But you're going to figure out why. It's because like back in the days when Web2 was still open, they just mess up. All these big companies mess up. They don't care about localization. They don't care about needs of local people. Yeah. I'm so sad that I see the same thing happen in the decentralized social right now. Yeah. Okay, just first version English, great, but at least put the other language in the upcoming versions. And know your users, know which language they're speaking, and maybe add an AI translation button. It's not hard.
Yeah. Well, but it has to go beyond technology because you think of like some of the great tragedies of Web2 social, the Rohingya genocide right around Facebook was not just a lack of language, but a lack of support for local control. And I hope that decentralized social can enable that kind of local control, so that people who know the cultural context can actually shape and help keep these places safe. I think it's time to turn over to questions from you all.
Yeah. Actually, before we go to wrap up this last section, why don't we, Nathan, you just published a book, right? Can you say a few words of the book? And I believe maybe the audience here, they might have a chance to get a free copy.
Yeah, do we have a slide with a QR code on it? So this book was just published by University of California Press. It's called Governable Spaces again, and that QR code will take you to a free copy of it in multiple formats, PDF, EPUB, Mobi, all those sorts of things. So this is free and open access. It's an exploration of, first of all, how the history of social online spaces has really prevented people from practicing self-governance, and how we can go about changing that. And it makes the argument that blockchains, among other things, have been a real profound opportunity for enabling the very possibility of self-governance in online spaces. But that's not an opportunity that has any guaranteed outcome. So the book explores ways that we can make sure that we take that opportunity seriously. It talks about my experience, co-leading, co-founding at least a cooperative Mastodon server, and explores, you're talking about policy, a different approach to public policy grounded in enabling self-governance in online space rather than solving everything with top-down rules and that sort of thing. So I hope it's useful to y'all, and thank you for taking a look and sharing.
You might get the signed copy if you're fast enough to catch him.
Digitally signed, I guess.
Yeah, maybe an FT, I don't know.
Yeah, exciting. I want to get a copy. So, okay, we enter the next session. We have about 10 minutes to open up the questions to the audience. But before that, we actually have a code for this session. In mask, we have a code saying that mask on, limits off. So don't hold your limits to ask your questions. And yeah, you guys too.
Okay, hit me Trump. hit me hard with the Trump question.
All right, so I'm gonna let my colleague down there to pass you the mic. So if you have a question, raise your hand, I point. And if you can kindly say your name and your question to address to either Nathan or Suji.
Okay.
Any questions? Okay, great. Your name, where you work, and then your question addressed to.
Hi, my name is Susan, and I work with USAID's Office of Global Trends and Technology. And my question is about privacy and how you see this development of Web3. A lot of the technologies are not very privacy facing. And even to get into this conference, the amount of data that I had to give up about myself was slightly shocking. And given all of the concerns around surveillance capitalism and the lack of privacy on blockchain and crypto, do we just not care about it anymore? And what is your thought about that? You were talking about standards and norms and practices. Do you feel that privacy is just going to die?
So the question's to whom? Sorry?
Oh, to anyone who wants to answer it.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a simple answer. Like, I was super care about my address until one day, like the ENS guy just DM me, say, Suji, you're gonna have a big airdrop from us, because you're one of the early ENS, whatever, right? And then just I keep having airdrops, even though I think, dude, we're not raising money. We're okay. You can have a lot of people for airdrop, but they're like, oh, your address is on the top early list. I think that seems good a little bit because at least there's a price, right? At least there's a price, and I think a lot of people who care about privacy, they have a price inside their heart, right? Say, hey, if Facebook pay you $1 million, are you gonna? Yeah, I mean, most people are gonna say yes instantly. And if you pay Twitter $7, are you gonna? No, they're gonna not do that. So I think the situation right now in the Web3 or more crypto-related decentralized social space, decentralized space, is because it's so financially related with all the token market, Bitcoin, etc. Now there's a relatively efficient market for some of these data, and it's not say it's working, but it's something efficient on some certain perspectives. And if we're able to scale that to a larger scale, at first we're going to be really annoying, because you kind of lose some privacy because people are going to track your address. Oh, okay, so you have a new air Okay, that guy is celebrity, got a new NFT. But you also need to remember, once you have a cryptographic address and cryptographic labeling, you also enable the functionality of like private transactions, encrypted direct message, right? You have a key in your hands, and together with the efficient market, you can price. You can say, hey, okay, just don't talk to me on any of my data if you don't have 1 million ready for my data, or just say, hey, okay, I'm really need some like air job, few $100 is okay. I think once the market is out, certainly a lot of people are going to willing to hand over their privacy, but the big company are going to pay way more, because we are using algorithm to fight against algorithms, right? If you just set a bar, say, okay, $10 for everyone's address, they're going to win because they always have better algorithm to compete and to sell you your data at a better price. You have to have a grassroots, something like AirDrop, whatever algorithm, and to fight against them using the machines. The machine fight against machines, and you're gonna win. You're gonna win a little bit. Say, hey, okay, now you're gonna pay a huge price. This is my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of this can be addressed without necessarily getting into the financial side, and I think it's a really important question. I shared that feeling in registering, and often have that feeling interacting with Web3 spaces where, I have a de-Googled phone and I couldn't use the first version of Warpcast because it wouldn't work on it, and every other app works fine. And I'm often kind of appalled by how much Web3 is not taking this stuff seriously. Like, why are DAOs running on Discord and Telegram rather than Matrix, which is a privacy-centered protocol-based chat system? I think we could be much more intentional about these things. I also think it's important to frame, when we talk about social media, the question not just as privacy as a kind of unalloyed good, right? I mean, accountability is the other side of privacy. And we need systems where people can be accountable for things they say, things they do, harm they might create, as well as protecting appropriate privacy. And again, I actually think if we are able to develop spaces that are not primarily financially motivated, we'll be in a better position to address those questions appropriately, to get that balance right between privacy and accountability.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have two in the back. Maybe make it very brief because we only have 5 minutes left, and also keep your answer short. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for sharing. And my name is Regan, and we are a small team making some effort in the decentralized social media space. And so actually, I have a question regarding the challenges in the decentralized kind of social space. Like, what would you think would be the kind of a challenge that we need to kind of tackle? So I got some options here. So for one is regarding the infrastructure to support the decentralized social media. And then the second is for the app adoption, like to make more people kind of use the app. Or we will have some features that can enable people to do something that people won't be able to do in the current social space. Yeah, so that is my question.
Okay, one sentence tip.
I think trade-offs. Like NASA took off, Diamonds take off, thanks to Jack, Xiaolin. But again, if you guess the DAU right now on NASA, it's lower than 20K right now, because people forgot their keys. I just think like every decentralized social whatever, they need to learn the trade-offs. And again, I mentioned GDPR. If you ever put everything on blockchain, you're gonna have a huge problem in EU later. Trade-offs. I think most of the team, they haven't really think about this not in a technical way, but in a sociology way.
And Jason? Okay, great. We pass to the next one.
Hello, my name is Daniel. I'm co-founder of Surf. We're building a super app, a mobile super app that integrates Lens and Farcaster. It's like a TikTok feed with frames and all. We're trying to build something fun and make more experiences. So my question to you is it's about the audience. I want to hear your ideas. Because we know the user bases of Lens and Farcaster now are really crypto bros, crypto girls, like the topics that people talk are really specific. So we often debate about our strategy, like what should we do, like trying to compete for these users that are already using other mobile clients, like crypto Twitter, like pulling them everywhere, or to focus on non-crypto audiences that, in fact, is the biggest space. So yeah, that's what I would like to know your opinions about.
I mean, I think it's an important question, and I think it's worth noting, for instance, how Blue Sky developed, for instance, targeting journalists and targeting people in who are cultural influencers outside of the tech world. Starting out with people who have networks and interests in conversation outside of that world. And I think, the first crypto app that does that's going to be, it'll have a new chance. But at the same time, I think it's valuable to incubate these tools among people who are the early adopters in these contexts, just because the barriers are going to be really real for other people. Like, the frames, are not going to be useful for somebody in a lot of these cases that doesn't already have a wallet, isn't already kind of familiar with NFTs. So I think actually bootstrapping around particular communities is really important, one way or another. Though I, share the concern, like I would love to go open up Warpcast or whatever and like not just see crypto talk.
Yeah, I'd say like crypto social network is a kindergarten, because super well funded compared to others.
Yeah.
Right. Just give you an example. Messkey in Japan is a ActivityPub compatible thing, no funding at all. Mastodon, we donate and become the largest donor. And number 2 is Samsung, right? You can't imagine that thing happening in the crypto Twitter. So crypto Twitter is the kindergarten. But once you're out of that, you're gonna face real problem. Like when we acquired the Japanese Mastodon instance, Kapau, they got like 1.1 million users. We received some email from Interpol. That's not fun. And I just say like crypto Twitter, everyone's so nice. They're probably just gonna fight about Bitcoin and Ethereum, not about Trump or no Trump. But if you're out of kindergarten, you're facing serious problem. It's not the investor talking to you. It's the Interpol and FBI, whatever. Say, hey, can you delete that? Can you just took down that thing from the blockchain because the GDPR requires? If you don't have an answer, better train yourself in the crypto Twitter kindergarten. That got money to feed you, and you can just think about it. It's a hard problem.
Great, thank you. All right, we wrap up this session and move to the next one. And remember, mask on, limbs off. When you build and you have no limits. Thank you.
Thank you so much.